with us tonight, the Conservative Business Secretary in Japan recently for talks with the car maker Nissan to reassure them about Brexit, Greg Clark. Labour's Shadow Secretary for Brexit, the former Director of Public Prosecutions, promoted to the Shadow Cabinet 1 year after becoming an MP, Keir Starmer. The President of the Liberal Democrats, Sal Brinton. Dear Chakravarti, the Political Director of the Taxpayers Alliance, which campaigns for lower taxes and spending. And Ken Loach, whose film I, Daniel Blake, about the hardship of living on benefits, has just won him the Palme d'Or at Cannes. And as always, remember, you can join in the debate, everything that's said here, either on Facebook or through Twitter, or text us on 83981. That said, let's have our first question from Judy Chera, please. Judy.
Has the British public become less compassionate since Ken Loach's 1966 film, Cathy Come Home?
Yes, I believe it is. Yeah. When we... 60 years ago, after the post-war settlement was still in place, where what we believed in was the common good, and people worked together for the common good. And then there was a change, a political change, and it marked a social change as well. And the common good went out the window, and it was about private greed, private projects, and the common good went out the window. And it's crystallised in the way we treat the most vulnerable people, and it's crystallised in the way we tell people who are desperately sick that they won't get any financial support unless the state assesses them and tells them they are fit to work. And it's in the sanctions. We came across one man who took his pregnant wife to hospital. She was in premature labour. He missed his appointment to the job centre, and his money stopped. His money stopped. And that was one of hundreds and hundreds of stories we heard. And people live in fear. A man was ill. He fell down. He injured himself badly. They called the ambulance. He was afraid to get in because they were afraid they would keep him in hospital overnight and he'd miss his appointment to the job centre. People are living in fear, and it's absolutely an intolerable way to live. There's a conscious cruelty in the way the system is being imposed because the state knows what it's doing. The Tory government knows exactly what it's doing.
So why isn't Labour more popular?
Why isn't Labour more popular? It is because the Parliamentary Labour Party has done its best to undermine its leader. That's why it's more popular, and people won't vote for a divided party. It's quite clear. But if you look at the policies, the Labour Party would abolish assessments, which of course it should do. And what happens when you're sanctioned? Your life is forced into chaos, and people are going to food banks, and there were 1,100,000 food parcels given. And over 400,000 of those went to children. How can we live in a society in which hunger is used as a weapon?
What do you make of what Iain Duncan Smith said, which when he resigned, which was that it looks to me as though it doesn't matter because these people don't vote for us?
Well, I don't agree with that at all. And so I think any member of Parliament, I think, would say that the work that they do to help the most vulnerable people in society, in their constituency, is one of their most important tasks.
The work capability assessment, which is absolutely the core of the point of Ken's film, which is excellent. If you haven't seen it, it really is worth seeing, is not fit for purpose. But it wouldn't be where it is 7 years after Labour introduced it in 2009 if there wasn't an acquiescence in the wider public. And I'm sorry to say that things like disability, hate crime and other things are just showing that there is less compassion than there has been. There are extraordinary people who are very compassionate, but this process absolutely fails. We tried to change it. For example, when it first came in, it was only the assessors, no relevance back to the original doctor on whether the person should or shouldn't actually be seen, which is the whole pivot of Ken's film. It clearly doesn't work, even with the doctors having some input these days. It absolutely doesn't work.
But surely you don't need an assessor. You take the word of the doctor and the consultant. You're doing everything else. You don't need a state assessor to do it. Well, the doctor and the consultant will tell you.
You are absolutely right, and that is why.
So why did it continue while you were in government?
Because we were trying these revisions to see if it would work. It's clearly not working, and it's got to stop. Falling outside the bureaucracy is an easy way of putting it. The bureaucracy itself is a substantial part of the problem.
What do you think, Judy? What do you think?
No.
Let me just go to the question of what
I
you've
think we
heard
are
so far.
becoming less compassionate, and I think the government and the media are encouraging us to become less compassionate. We've got these TV shows where we're encouraged to ridicule benefit claimants. And we've got headlines in the newspaper saying, oh, this family gets this much in benefit. And we don't see the underlying things, like we don't see that actually the housing benefit doesn't go into the pockets of the claimants, goes to the landlords.
I'm very glad this issue has come up because I think it's really important about compassion. And the DWP assessments should get much more attention than they do about fitness for work. At the heart of them, there ought to be dignity and respect for the individual. They ought to be the core characteristics. And they aren't, and it's getting worse, and there are terrible consequences. The father of one of my constituents that I've been helping, her father, Michael O'Sullivan, was assessed as fit for work when for many years he'd obviously been not fit for work, had mental health issues, and he tragically took his own life. And the coroner said there was a causal link between his intense anxiety and the assessment and the consequences. His daughter has been asking for answers to how that happened, what went wrong, why there wasn't the compassion and the respect. And she hasn't got answers for 3 years.
Should there be an assessment process in your view, or do you think that itself is misguided?
I don't think you can simply do away with any assessment, but I think it is time for a real review of how these assessments are actually working. There's been growing concern. I think all MPs have had this. I've had this tragic case in my constituency, and it really deserves to be looked at.
Debbie Abrams has said that she will abolish the assessments. That's your part of policy.
I think they should be...
Thank God she has said it, because it's bringing misery and chaos to people's lives.
I certainly think it should be fundamentally reviewed.
The woman there, and then I come to you, so then I come back to you. Yes.
I think the problem is with the system is that it's viewed differently from either side. So those that create the assessments, they demonise everybody that is part of that system. Everyone that needs that system is painted with a general brush, and they are just there to get money. Whereas everyone on the other side, they want compassion. They want them to understand that they're going through hardships, and all they want is to live, and all they want is for other people to understand that.
And you, sir?
I'm Chief Exec of a charity, and the question was put about whether compassion is something about society. Now, we've got politicians arguing about political points, but I see every day the compassion that the British public pour out in the giving to charity, the generosity and the kindness of people in this country. We must never forget that.
Can I say something on that? There is compassion, of course, with people, but it's not reflected in the government's actions. The DWP staff are under incredible pressure, and we know there are targets and expectations, and if people don't sanction the number of people they're meant to sanction, they go on a personal improvement plan. And we talked to hundreds of people who work at the DWP under your guidance and instructions, and they are told to sanction people. If they don't sanction them, then they're in trouble.
I mean, we shouldn't have these assessors. We have qualified doctors, consultants. They decide if a person is disabled or not, and not an assessor who's not professionally trained in the first place. And they only cost us money as well.
My thanks to all our panellists here and to all of you who came to Gloucester to take part. From Question Time until next Thursday, good night.
Good morning, Mr. Blake. I'm appointed to carry out assessments for employment and support allowance. Can you walk more than 50 metres?
Yes.
Can you raise either arm as if to put something in your top pocket?
Yes. Can I ask you a question? Are you medically qualified? I've had a major heart attack. I've been told by my doctor that I'm not supposed to go back to work yet.
I'm afraid you must continue to look for work, or your benefit payments will be frozen.
There must be some mistake.
If you've been deemed fit for work, Your only option is job seekers allowance.
Well, I want to appeal.
You have to apply online, sir.
I was a carpenter. I've never been anywhere near a computer.
So you need to run the mouse up the screen. No.
Not now.
No, not like that.
I'm just going round in circles.
I'm going to have to ask you to explain to you a situation and you don't care. I've got about 12 quid in my purse.
Do you know what? You've created a scene, all right?
Jesus Christ!
What am I supposed to do?
Who's first in this queue?
I am.
Do you mind if this young lass signs on first?
No, you carry on. This isn't your concern. I want you to get out as well.
It's a monumental farce, isn't it? Looking for non-existent jobs. And all it does is humiliate me. You've done nothing to be ashamed of. You're at home with 2 kids. You've done amazing.
I've seen it before. Good people on the street. You could lose everything.
Well, I'm not going to give up. When you lose your self-respect, you're done for.
Yeah!